Hi, this is Robert. This is my channel, Running in the Desert. Um, I've been getting the bug to maybe run one more marathon. I'll be in my 70th year when my local marathon here in Phoenix will come up. But here's some of my medals just to show you. I have some background in running, and all of my marathons, in fact, all my running since I started when I was about age 15, all been as a heavy runner. I've never completed a marathon under, I think, 225 pounds. I've run two of them as high as like 250. It's way too heavy. It's hard. But it's given me a lot of insight over the years in my training, in my shoe selection, and my mindset. Those are really the three main things I want to talk about today. I've run Chicago twice. I've run St. Louis three times, St. Charles, Missouri, the Flying Pig in Cincinnati. I ran Berryman 50 twice. I did not finish either time, but I got credit for the marathon twice. A couple of other local marathons. I've run some halves. I don't really like half marathons though. But the things I've learned I want to share with you. Number one is about shoes. You have to run in good shoes. And I think it's even more critical when you're a heavy runner. To me, shoes really come in two categories. There's heavily cushioned and there's regular shoes, regular cushioned. I'm right now standing in a pair of Hokas, and they are heavily cushioned shoes. You know that. They're like walking or running on pillows. You would think as a heavy runner that that's ideal for your long distance. For me, it is not. I have learned that the more miles I put in on heavily cushioned shoes, the more injuries I tend to sustain in my feet and ankles. I talked to a physician one time who's a fabulous runner, and his theory is that what he called the rebound effect. That in heavily cushioned shoes, when you plant your foot, you feel that initial cushion, and it feels good. But there's a rebound, a cause and effect. What has been compressed suddenly decompresses, and he says that builds a little mini shock wave that comes back through your legs, and your legs at that point are fixed, and so it comes right through your ankles and then to your knees. This is an anecdotal experience on my part, but I can tell you that when I train long distance in heavily cushioned shoes, I have had injuries. For me, up to around 4 or 5 miles, I'll do it. Other than that, I'm in just a standard pair of running shoes. I don't need the extra cushion. As far as fitting is concerned of your shoes and shoe selection, I would suggest buy the best shoes you can afford that give you fit, stability, and comfort. I've actually been fitted professionally twice, and maybe that's an option for you. For me, honestly, those two pair of shoes I bought after being fitted professionally, neither one of them worked out. In fact, I still have a pair here I wear out when I'm gardening here in Arizona. Neither of those, I don't think I ever ended up with more than about 150 miles on either one of those. They just did not work out. But when it comes to gear, it's about shoes, and when you talk about shoes, what it really is about your feet. So good shoes, make sure you're also wearing good socks. A good pair of socks and an average pair of shoes is better than a great pair of shoes and not paying attention and just wearing standard cotton socks that don't wick away moisture from your feet. Blisters are your enemy in a marathon. And if you don't wick moisture away from your feet, you're much more likely to end up with big blisters. And it's a real challenge to run. So shoes is number one. Number two is a training program. Now you can spend a lot of money in training programs. You can buy websites, subscriptions. You can buy programs, you can buy books, you can use spreadsheets. It can be really complicated. I'm going to share with you my training program. You're going to think this is too simple. But it's the same program I've always used, and it's gotten me through 17 starts and 15 finishes. And it's this, especially for a marathon, because I've run a few halves, but I prefer marathons at 26 miles. I take 26 miles and I break it up into days. In the beginning, say 12 to 16 weeks out, I run 26 miles during that week. I might run a few miles every day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and I'll walk in between. In the beginning, I let those walking miles contribute to my total of 26. I get a little further down the road, and part of this is just feel. How do I feel? And after 2 or 3 weeks, I will break that down, and maybe I'll run 26 miles in 5 days and get my walking in and some biking. I pre-exhaust on the bike a lot. Another couple weeks, and I'll get 26 miles in over 4 days. and that might be a couple of 5-milers, that might be a 8-miler, and then the last day you get the whole balance of that distance out. But it's simple, it's easy to understand, it's easy to keep track of. At the end of the week, do I have my 26 miles in or not? If you're on a Saturday or Sunday and you don't have it, finish it out. You have to get in the mindset of finishing. So take that for what it's worth. I know a lot of people say, no, that doesn't work. You've got to get at least a 20-miler in. You know what? For gazelles and skinny people, yeah, okay, get a 20-miler in. I've learned this. When I run 20 miles, it takes me 2 or 3 days to recover. And I don't want to take 2 or 3 or 4 days off. I want to be walking, biking, or running, something that contributes to my overall endurance. Because you've got to get miles in the bank when it comes to the marathon. You have to be able to show up on the start line with confidence you have put enough miles in the bank that you're not going to be tricked on day one and run out of steam when you get halfway through. You just can't do that. You've got to get your miles in the bank. So it's about shoes, it's about training, and the last thing is about mindset, especially if you're a heavy runner. I have people all the time tell me, very often over the years, you're too big to run. Why do you run? Well, I think of it like this. My wife is a painter, and I don't ever ask her why she paints. She paints because she's a painter. I run because I'm a runner. If you have it in your heart that you want to run, then you have the mindset of a runner. That's your mindset. Your mindset has to be that I'm going to run because, not because I can, but because that's who I am. And you're going to train and you do everything that you need or have to do to put yourself in the very best position to succeed on race day. Usually I don't call them race days, I call them run days, because I'm not racing anybody. I'm not competing against other people. My goal is not to win anything. My goal is to finish. My goal is to run, finish, and when I walk, sometimes I walk across that finish line, but you try not to do that. When I cross that finish line, I don't want to feel broken down. I want to feel like I've done something. Because here's the other thing about mindset. The person that finishes a marathon is very different than the person that starts one. You've learned about yourself. You've learned that you can push your boundaries, that you can take on challenges, that when somebody says something is too hard for you, you can look them straight in the eye and say, it's not too hard for you, I've run a marathon. You know, I trained for it, I got through it, I got to the finish line, so don't tell me this is too hard, because it's not. Now, tips on race day, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but on race day, some practical things. Be the last person out of the bathroom before you start. Sounds silly, but if you can time it so you're out of the bathroom and you've only got a few minutes before the race starts, you've timed it perfectly. Because what you don't want to see happen is to get a mile or 2 or 3 or 4 miles in and suddenly you have to have a bathroom break. You don't want to do that. The other thing is, when you start out, let's say if you're a 10-minute miler for heavy runners, that's a pretty good number. Well, if you're not careful and other people around you and their pace is 9 minutes a mile, you might try to match them for a while, and you'll feel good. And the excitement, the adrenaline's rushing, you'll feel great. And then you get down maybe 5 or 6 miles, you realize I started off too fast. So to counteract that, if you're a 10-minute miler, those first couple of miles, run them in 11-minute miles. Pull back initially. Don't try to keep up, because that'll burn you out. Aid stations. When you get to aid stations, and I've done this myself, don't pass up aid stations without drinking. Even if you think I'm not thirsty, mentally you'll think I'm not thirsty, but physiologically you're thirsty. You're sweating, your sweat is evaporating, you're drying out. Take in, even if you just take a little bit. They'll almost always have water and Gatorade for you at the early stations. I like to mix them up. If I take nothing but water throughout, I did that once and it was disastrous. At some point all the water just free flows through your GI tract and bad things happen later in the race. So take some salt, and a lot of times they'll give you salt tablets. Do that. You know, you can need doctor supervision to make some of these choices. Do that. But salt helps the gut absorb water in your system, and it's really important. Gatorade will have sodium in it to help you do that. And then the last thing is have fun. Say thank you to the people working the aid stations. Have conversations with people around you. If you get to a point where you feel like you have to take a walking break, then do it. In fact, the old adage is, when you're struggling to finish a marathon, run until you can't, and then walk until you can. it's okay to take walk breaks. I've taken walk breaks in all but maybe 3 marathons that I've ever run. So I just wanted to stop and share a few things. There are a lot of hints and videos about running marathons, but I don't see too many of them that have actually done it, and done a bunch of them, and done it at my heavy a weight. Obviously, it'd be a lot easier if I could drop some more weight, and I'm trying to do that now. I'm intermittent fasting, trying to do that. But if I don't, and I still decide I'm going to sign up, and I'm going to sign up and have a blast. Beautiful people run marathons. They're fun, they're happy, they're goal-oriented, and marathons can change your life. Listen, my name is Robert. This channel is Running in the Desert. I have a couple of channels. One's called Aging in America here with Robert. If this content is important to you, if this has made a difference to you, if you found it interesting, do me a favor and like and subscribe, as it B just about flew into this shot. Like and subscribe. We're trying to grow this channel, and with a message. In this case, it's a message for those of us who don't look like a typical long-distance runner, but we are at heart. God bless. Have a fabulous day.